welcome to What the Hell. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Marvel versus DC. Uh, there's a lot about it talked about, and a lot of people don't realize uh, either A, they just go off of the movies, they go off of. Not a lot of people actually read the comic books nowadays. It's more or less like they do the animes and stuff like that.
Yeah, they actually did a printed crossover from like April to May. It was like 2 months or whatever back in '96. The two giants got together.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the
It was DC versus Marvel Comics.
well, they have several of those.
Hmm.
They stopped doing it here lately, which is really sad because I can't remember. I know the name of it, and I just can't. It starts with an A.
Well, the plot was kind of like these two brothers that were very godlike. They personified
Yeah.
themselves as the DC versus in the Marvel universes. They became aware of each other's existence and challenged each other to a series of duels involving the respective superheroes, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
The
and
losing universe would cease to exist, and the story it was in like a kind of an outer universe component, and where the outcomes of the primary battles were determined by the readers' votes.
yeah, and they actually had variants of those characters, like Wolverine and Batman combined together, called Dark Claw. Uh, Eggman, AMALGAM comics. That's what is the combination of Marvel and DC. They had like Superman with Captain America merged together. Storm and Wonder Woman merged together.
Yeah.
A lot of them, and it was a lot of
Well,
people hated it.
Well, they really that miniseries had kind of like a head to head, mantra to it. Aquaman versus the Submariner.
Yeah.
Aquaman won that fight hands down because he had a whale land on top of the Submariner.
Yeah, well, the whole thing about the Marvel versus DC, that comic, what it was is you just had to pin the person down.
Yeah.
I mean, there is even one thing in there where I think it was Wonder Woman versus Storm, and Wonder Woman ended up lifting up Thor's hammer.
Yeah.
And-
Well, okay. So Thor went against Cap Marvel. Cap Marvel being the DC Universe character.
Or Shazam.
Yeah, Cap Marvel, Shazam. It was the alter ego was Billy Batson.
Yeah.
Well, Thor, he caused Cap Marvel to change back to Billy, and when Billy went to go change back, Thor threw manure out there and intercepted the lightning that would have changed him back.
Yeah.
So that's how Thor won that fight. So I don't know. That one. I'm a big fan of the fact that Thor won that fight, just simply due to the fact that you're going against a god. You're just a kid who happened to inherit powers from some like creepy ass old pedo, wizard.
Well, depending on who's and it's another thing is depending on who's writing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It depends on how good the comic is. Like Jeff Jones, I really like his writing style.
Yeah.
Because he did Shazam writing. It was kind of like a one-off, but it had like different It was a mini series with different episodes, but they were in the back of Justice League.
Yeah.
When it came out, the Tri-War or something like that. It was something to do with Pandora. Anyways, what happened with that is that whole, if you watch the actual Shazam movie, that's more or less what that comic book was, and that there was a little bit of variations in it, and it was just really, really well written. It's like the Reborn series, not the full miniseries, but like Flash Reborn, where they brought back Barry Allen, and Green Lantern Reborn, which he did too, which they brought back Hal Jordan as the Green Lantern. Those series was top of the line.
One of the best fights in that whole series, though, it was Wolverine or Logan versus Lobo.
Yes.
It was a huge bar fight. Most of it occurred off panel.
Yeah.
So I mean, you had a lot of that automatopoeia out there, like the bam crash, and it was. I think they used a lot of alliteration to it, to
Yeah,
kind of
because
describe it, because you can't draw that kind of violence.
in comics back then, yeah.
Yeah, comics back in the '90s. I mean, really. This was even before. I mean, even before Image took off and did its thing, you still couldn't really get that graphic unless you were doing those like small independent studios, which this was not gonna. I mean, they wouldn't have been able to hang.
Well, they would be. I mean, if you look at the Max series from Marvel, which was Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Luke Cage. I mean, the Jessica Jones ones, which if you watch the TV series Jessica Jones, that was more or less that. But I mean, even I think Joe I forget his name, but he wrote that, and the first series was Jessica Jones, and because they didn't have any kind of censorship on those comics and everything like that, he literally said, "It's like I'm gonna see how many times I can write the word fuck in this thing."
You're right.
And he did, and then after a while, they're like, "Dude, maybe tone it down a little bit. Just back it off just a hair," because almost every panel had like 3 fucks in it.
Yeah.
But that was another thing back in the 50s was the comic book code.
Yeah.
And what it ended up happening with that was this quack of a psychologist decided to say, hey, comic books are creating these deviants for little boys and everything, because back then boys read comic books more than girls did. And what it ended up happening is instead of having it be censored and everything like that, they decided to create the comic book code. Well,
yeah, it was like a morality thing.
Yeah, right. And
I mean, basically, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, I get your point, but with that comic book authority or whatever it was, this isn't immoral, this is moral, this is okay, this is okay. It was just censorship, and under a different name. That's all that it was. And you talk to the editors, you talk to the writers, you talk to the artists of the day, and they all knew. You had to get this. I mean, they had to come up with sneaky ways to get past the censors.
Yeah,
And I mean, a lot of that came
there's
out.
one who was just like a telephone call or something like that.
Well, a lot of the authority code or the comic book code came out during the Red Scare of the 50s.
Yeah.
So everybody's.
Was it McCarthy?
Yeah, McCarthy. Yeah. So I mean, a lot of people were just like, they were scared of the commies. They were scared of the Reds, and it's like the Reds are infiltrating our children via the comic book industry, and it's like, and so it.
Well, he even backed off in the 70s and said he was wrong.
Yeah, he did, but that comic book authority code was still in place.
Yeah.
And I think that was in place I want to say until like the late 80s, early 90s.
No, it was late 70s.
Was
What
it
happened?
late 70s? Okay.
Yeah, what happened was
I know why I remember seeing that those on the covers as those kids, because my dad had tons of comic books. I used to just read all of his issues.
Yeah. Well, what happened with that was it was literally them saying, "Hey, we want to stop drugs and everything like that. Write it for kids to do anti-drugs." And they did it. They tried to do it with the Spider-Man because of the comic book code. They couldn't put it out, so they just wrote the issue as a non-comic book code. But what's really sad is DC did it, and they didn't do it with the comic book code, and that issue to this day is for its time was really weird.
Yeah.
And really pushing it forward because they basically Speedy, Green Arrow's protege, basically got addicted to heroin. and they implanted the whole thing. And Green Arrow was just offshot it, and it was Green Lantern that came in and said, "Hey, maybe you should do something about this. I mean, look at your views and everything." It was a very well written comic.
Yeah, and Marvel kind of their approach to it, from what I remember, their approach to it was not issues per se, but more like PSAs.
Yeah.
You had Captain America, you know, talking about say no to drugs, which is funny considering the fact that
All of his powers.
came from being shot, you know, from taking a serum, you know, and I'm like, huh, that's funny.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those moments where you just look at everything and you're like, really? I mean, when you're a kid, you don't think about that kind of
Right.
stuff. I mean, there's a comic book series from Marvel called Nam.
The Nam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
And
reading that. Yeah.
There was a couple of issues that had the Punisher in there.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, what they do nowadays is if they're doing a character, it's like, oh, he was prior military, and he's always been prior military. And it gets to the point to where he's literally, Punisher's been in almost every war. But you have a person like Captain America that's only been in one war, technically.
Technically, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he was in World War II, and he didn't come out of the ice until like the 80s.
No, it was the 60s. Because
Oh,
he was
man,
like
it's-
a fifth comic in Fifth Avengers. And
Yeah.
he ended up being the leader.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's hard to go toe to toe with me with comics because
Well, I wasn't trying to go toe to toe.
No.
Well, you know what's funny is you talking about like combat related comic books. My dad used to read Sergeant Rock all the time.
Oh yeah, Sergeant Rock and the
Like,
Howling Commandos.
Yeah, well.
No, the Howling Commandos was Fury.
Yeah, that was Fury, but Sergeant Rock, it was like Easy Company, and you know, Sergeant Rock of Easy Company or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've got a Sergeant Rock issue that's framed, because on the cover it's like, "Follow me, I am the infantry," and I'm like, yeah. But I've got it. It's in a bag with the backer board, and it's framed. I mean, that's one of the coolest things, you know, because having been an infantryman, you know, my dad found that and he framed it for me, and I was like, oh yeah, that's where it's at for me.
Yeah.
So, you know, comic books is you know the way that the comic books relate to everyday like social issues, and they, you know, people can identify with basically anything that's in a comic book.
Yeah.
And I think that they're written that way.
Well,
Actually, you know, with the way that they connect on a such a wide and diverse base, I think it was done kind of incidentally, because the way that the writers were approaching it, especially in the 60s and the 70s, and then going on into the 80s, they started to write these characters to reflect the social issues of the time.
Yeah.
And they were really trying to offer a more of a neutral kind of a viewpoint of how to view, you know, of how to look at those things. I mean, obviously, you're going to have things like Captain America, very patriotic.
But you ended up having like something like to the extent of the X-Men, where it was going against civil rights, or not going against civil rights. It was more of a civil rights statement.
Yeah, they really were, and to an extent they still are. So
Yeah.
Now, I mean, when we get into things like the MCU, you're going to start seeing that more and more now, especially because they reacquired the rights to 98% of their property.
Yeah.
Specifically the Fox.
Yeah.
So when they bought out 21st Century Fox, they got all of their X-Men back. They got
Fantastic Four.
They got their Fantastic Four. I think there was like one other smaller property that
they ended up giving back Daredevil before the thing beforehand.
But like with now that they're trying to figure out a way to introduce the X-Men story arcs into the MCU, I think if they can, I think we're gonna, because Phase 4 is supposed to be like a really small.
Well, not really small in a way. Most of the stuff is going to be TV series from Disney Plus.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're doing a lot of that just based out of just pure necessity. So, because of the whole
It's so funny.
life
Life
will
happens.
find a way. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think that they're doing a lot of the Disney Plus stuff for the MCU just based pure out of necessity because Hollywood basically shut down while everybody was freaking out about a 99% survivable pandemic.
Yeah, as long as you don't say the words to it, we won't get banned. So.
Oh no! I won't call it the Wulong virus at all. So, but anyways, um, this is a comic book show, not a political statement show.
Yep.
But I think that the smaller screen stuff like your Scarlet Witch, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I liked both of those series by the way.
Oh yeah.
Scarlet Witch really kind of it set up Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which is going to be the second Doctor Strange movie coming out.
And they brought back the Darkhold.
Yes, and so and Agatha Harkness. I mean, they kind of tweaked with the character a little bit, but at the same time, I think they really kind of added a new dimension to the character.
Yeah,
She was one of those smaller, kind of like B team bad guys.
Well, that's a lot of things on the Marvel side of the TV series or just movies in general. A lot of people, everybody's heard of Iron Man now, but back then,
Yeah, Iron Man was a JV guy.
yeah, it was B. It was they did a lot of the B stuff, and everybody started hitting it up. I mean, the only one that was like really big was the Hulk, and they trashed it the first time. And the second time, Ed Norton actually did a really good job, and a lot of people will freaking argue to the fact that they didn't. I was like, no, it was actually really good.
Yeah, I mean, with the Ed Norton version of the Hulk, yeah, I mean, I liked the movies. They could have done a little bit better of a job with it. And I think a lot of that is because, if I'm not mistaken, the Hulk property was still owned by Fox at the time.
Universal.
It was Universal because those were Paramount movies. So they really couldn't do a whole lot as far as like the backstory. They couldn't really use that as the catalyst for the MCU. So that's when Marvel came in, was like, you know what? Let's go with Iron Man. Let's see if we can get this, because I mean, you look at it, like the way that the comic books themselves are set up, all of their funding came from Stark Industries.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Well,
it just kind of seemed like
the
a
other
no-brainer.
the other thing about those movies is there was a lot going against them.
Yeah.
Because everybody was like, we don't know if this is. I mean, they got every person that worked on Iron Man was quote unquote thrown to the wolves. They weren't supposed to do this stuff. They weren't supposed to be this high up because Hollywood as an entity tried to trash them down as much as they possibly.
Yeah, they were like,
John
it's just-
Favreau as a director. They were like, oh no, he sucks. You can't use him. Robert Downey Jr. Oh, he's trouble. He has a bad past and everything like that.
Yeah.
But they showed up and they literally. If you actually look in the
this
back
thing and they took it.
no, what's even funnier than that is they didn't even have a script. Most of that stuff was improv.
Yeah.
It literally showed what they were doing. They were doing everything as a fly.
Yeah.
And
Now, with the job that John Favreau did with his hand in the Marvel movies with Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3.
he didn't do Iron Man
2.
3.
Yeah, no, I think he did direct 3.
No. He was just in it. It was a different. It was the director that did that. Also did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
That's right. So he
And-
did Iron Man's 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And then you take a look at what John Favreau did with Star Wars when he came out with The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Right? He basically, The Mandalorian, I think, was kind of like an apology letter to the Star Wars fans.
Yeah, and even what's really funny is during the interview, the round table with all the characters and everything, the chick that shall not be named ever again because she's fired.
Yeah, not
Because
to-
she wanted to have her woke Star Wars, and she had her woke Star Wars, and the fans almost beat her to a pulp.
Yeah, well,
verbally.
Yeah, verbally, and then on top of that, there's such the huge backlash from it. I think Disney is forced now into a position where they're going to retcon.
No, they already said it. They already
Yeah.
they're gone.
Yeah, so they're no longer, those movies are no longer canon.
And what's
But
really
what
sad
sucks-
is a lot of the actors in there are really good actors, and
Yeah.
they're getting trashed.
Well, they're getting trashed, and we can't go back. And like the Timothys, I think that they missed a golden opportunity. They could have used the Timothy Zahn series, Heir to the Empire.
No, what they were trying to do is the Dark Empire. And if you looked at the last episode, that's where they actually you see the executioner. No, come on, Dave. Executioner class Star Destroyers,
Yeah. Okay.
and that's where those Star Destroyers came up. It was just very
Well, did you
weird.
ever read that Timothy Zahn series, Heir to the Empire?
Yeah, that was very good. With
With the twins, and it had Grand Admiral Thrawn in it.
yeah.
He introduced Thrawn in that series, and I'm like, oh man, Han and Leia had twins.
Yeah.
It wasn't one of these. I mean, Rain Johnson and she who shall not be named really trashed Luke Skywalker's character.
Yeah.
And you always see these like clips, these videos that are out there floating around now, where like the last take that Mark Hamill did as Luke Skywalker, he's crying and he's having to be consoled by the crew. And they're like, oh, it's the last time. He knew it was the last time he's ever going to be Luke Skywalker. It's like, no. And and he came out during the Last Jedi, the press tour for the Last Jedi. He came out and was like, look,
Yeah.
they killed my character. I mean, they ruined Luke Skywalker.
But Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni brought greatness
Yeah.
back in the last episode of Mandalorian. If you
Yeah.
haven't watched it, spoiler alert, I don't care.
Yeah,
I mean, when Luke Skywalker comes in,
you
had time.
You've had time to go and watch it. You've had time to sit down.
And oh man, I was geeking out to the point to where geeking out. I mean, you could have shot me like 15 times and I would still be going.
Yeah, me and my boys were sitting there watching. Dude, I got goosebumps.
Oh
Just
yeah,
talking
me
about it.
too.
So, me and my boys are sitting there watching it, and it's like it's like, oh, a single X-wing, and I'm like, huh? And then I was you look closer, and it's like, that's an R2 in the back of that, and I was like, oh, wait.
I didn't even do that.
Wait. And I was sitting there putting the pieces together. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, oh my god. And then my Colin, my 12-year-old, he was like, is that? And then my youngest, he goes, is that Luke Skywalker? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm hoping. Oh, and then you see that in the entrances of all entrances, where that green saber just extends out. You're like, and then you see the mechanical hand, and he just.
You just do the.
We were just like, oh. I mean, we were jumping off the chairs, jumping off the couch. My 9-year-old, he's got Asperger's. I mean, he's like, he gets into it, and he's like, oh my god, it's Luke Skywalker. Oh, I mean, it just,
Yeah, I did the whole curly spinning around in the. It was just awesome.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's like, now they could have done the deep fake, the CGI face, right? They could have done a little bit better on that. And you see some of those YouTube videos where these small budget CGI studios go in and they recreate it and they make it look better. But it's like
I don't care.
Yeah, well, I don't care, but at the same time I do. But it's just like, okay, because the only reason I do, and it's not me trying to nitpick, so whatever. You've got these small time studios that can do twice as good of a job, but then you've got Disney with an app and some still and some still capture video, right? Then you get Disney, a multi-billion-dollar.
No, it's even
giant.
sad. They do the deep fake for a lot of stuff, except like the whole thing with Justice League when it first came out with the mustache. Yeah, and you have people that were doing it with the deep fake app.
Yeah,
and it's like 1,000 times better. It's like, really, guys? Did you really have to drop the ball that bad? I was like, the only reason, you can't even
Now,
say.
to be fair, the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, they went in and they cleaned up all of that.
Oh, it's so great.
And
And
yes,
it made
was,
so much.
and
The
it
whole
was,
storyline made
yes,
100
and
times sense,
honestly, if they would have released the Zack Snyder cut, they could have done that in two different installments. They could have done like Infinity War in game type setup, and it would have. I mean, it would have saved the DCU. It really would have,
Yeah.
as far as cinematically is concerned. Now, it they didn't. They opted to go for the Josh Whedon cut. Now, Josh Whedon, don't get me wrong, love the guy. He's responsible for bringing us a lot of cool stuff, like Firefly and the initial part of the Avengers. Um, so, what was some of his other smaller titles? Um, Dale versus.
How's that like to? No, you're talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I mean, Josh Whedon brought us a lot of greatness.
Yeah.
But he needed to stay out of the DCU because DC.
He's more of a Marvel fan. That's the reason why I didn't really want him to.
Yeah, and see, Zack Snyder's more of a DC guy.
Yeah.
Now,
because he brought
I love the Marvel universe. Don't get me wrong. I am a huge fan. If I had to pick one over the other, I'm going Marvel all day long just because of the writing.
See, I can't even do that.
Well,
because comic books mean like that is like, oh,
let me
crack.
back up. Let me back up. If I'm going to pick a cinematic universe, I'm going to go Marvel all day. Just because of what we've seen as far as the writing for the DC movies, it just seems like they're trying to keep up with the Joneses, and they can't.
Yeah.
Because Marvel Studios set the standard, and they ran with that juggernaut. I mean, they just bulldozed over everything, and they've rewritten the expectations and the standard for superhero
man, I
movie.
totally forgot Deadpool.
Yeah.
They brought back Deadpool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry.
So,
I just.
but but as far as like the the cinematic universes are concerned, I mean.
Well, I had a theory back in the day.
Because hands down, my favorite superhero ever. Okay, as far as comic books are concerned, my favorite one always and forever will be Superman.
Yeah, same here.
And my Superman, my Man of Steel, will always be Christopher Reeve.
Oh yeah.
And to an extent, you got Christopher Reeve, and I actually enjoyed Brandon Routh.
Oh yeah.
As Superman. Superman Returns. The writing could have been a little bit better.
No.
But it was storyline.
It was Bryan Singer that was just. I hate him. I really do.
He's the guy that
like
he was. Yeah, he was the guy responsible for screwing up the X-Men, for Fox. But
yeah. And you didn't get Wolverine to his greatness until you got to Logan.
Yeah, but which is sad that we had to wait that long to get there.
I don't even think he touched that one.
No, he didn't. He wasn't. But, he didn't have anything to do
with it.
Well,
there's a lot of things on something to that extent, to where a lot of the comic books you can easily turn into really great movies. Like Wolverine Origins. The comic book is so great.
Yeah, the comic book was great, but the movie, oh my
God, you just throw it in the dumpster fire.
The only reason that I had my boys watch that is because of, I wanted them to see just how bad Fox screwed up the X-Men universe. And so that way they could also get, to its fullest extent, the joke that Ryan Reynolds injected into the Deadpool movies.
Yeah.
And, especially at the end of the second one when he's going back and cleaning up the timelines.
Yes, it was so freaking hilarious.
But, I mean, as far as like DC, you're going to get some of these really great one-liners, and it's like, one of the things that I really appreciated about Superman Returns was it wasn't necessarily a reboot, it was a continuation.
But they could have done it to the point where he wasn't. They didn't put him in as a creepy person.
Yeah, I mean, they could have made it to where Superman didn't really kind of come off as being so much of a homewrecker. I mean, it could have. I mean, because
Not
we
even
we
that.
we
More
could
of
have.
a
We
stalker too.
Yeah.
There's so many things that was wrong.
so many things, right?
And
But
Brandon Roth really worked his magic on
yeah,
that one, and he was
he got the approval from Christopher Reeve's widow to
yeah.
play the part. And I mean, it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. Call it creepy, but whatever. It's still one of my favorite scenes. It's when he's in the kid's bedroom, watching him sleep.
Yeah,
right?
that's creepy.
Be that as it may, I'm looking at it from the simplistic point of view that this is a father looking at his son.
Exactly.
Okay, and he recited the line that his dad had imprinted into that crystal set. Is you will be
Sunstone.
different. Sometimes you will feel like an outcast, but you will never be alone. You will make my strength your own. You will see my life through your eyes, and your life will be seen through mine. The son becomes the father, and the father becomes the son. See, I get goosebumps, and I'm like, to me, like that is hands down, like that encapsulates for me what it means to be a dad.
Yeah.
Because
it's also
and I'm looking at like because you remember we keep talking about how comic books are constantly kind of like they're really summarizing.
Good teaching chart.
Yeah, I mean they're teaching they're teaching tools, and they really kind of they bring to the surface those unspoken things that we experience in everyday life, and like the racial bigotries and the classisms,
or just the outcasts.
Yeah,
I mean, even in Man of Steel, they had the you may stumble, you may fall, but everybody will eventually join you into the sun.
yeah,
I probably butchered that whole thing, but
yeah. I mean, I get what you were saying.
yeah,
But for me, and I had that whole thing, and what, and if you remember at the beginning of Superman Returns, they had, oh crap,
a lot of Marlon Brando stuff.
Marlon Brando. Thank you.
Yeah.
They dubbed Marlon Brando's part of that dialogue, reciting that same line, into the beginning of the movie, and then when you see Krypton explode, and
Well, they also did a lot. They used a lot of the stuff that they chunked in the first two movies because Richard Donner did both Superman 1 and Superman 2.
yeah,
And they had the Donner cut in the second one, and
which I thought was like great.
yeah, it was still good, but it was just cut because they didn't want to spend that much money, and it's situations like that. A lot of the time, it just comes down to the brass tacks of money.
Yeah, now I say I love Christopher Reeve, love him to death. And I cried the day that he died because I remember there was a political cartoon. Remember you see those political cartoons in the op-ed pages. And I had this cut out and I saved it somewhere. I don't think it survived my second divorce, but anyways, I digress. It was a picture of a wheelchair with a Superman cape draped over the side of it, and somebody flying off into the distance with angel's wings, and it said, "You'll believe a man can fly," and it had the epitaph
goosebumps
page,
right there.
right? And I'm like, man, because I mean, it's like I'm sitting there going,
I might tear up a little bit.
because when he got into that horse riding accident, I'm like, Superman's not supposed to get paralyzed.
Oh God, yes.
And then when he died, I'm like,
well, even that
Superman
episode
doesn't
of
die.
even the episode of Smallville where he showed up and you hear the Superman theme music in the
Yes.
background, the original.
Yeah,
and you're like,
see?
and you're like, oh yes,
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 exactly.
yes, he's back.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it made you feel that he was back.
Yeah.
And it's just stuff like that from your youth that you bring
because
up.
they don't play the original Superman theme in Man of Steel. You get that whole kind of weird, clunky, pseudo semi-electronic.
That was really the real thing that I really liked about the Joss Whedon Justice League. It wasn't the fact of that whole movie was it was all right. I still watched it a couple of times, but it was that scene where he comes in. It's like if you want to talk about justice or truth. Yeah, if you want to come in and talk about truth, and you hear the Superman music from the 70s,
Yes.
and he comes up, and you're like, that at that moment, that was the moment for me,
Yeah.
because it was like okay, I'm getting my childhood back.
Yeah, and I mean,
And
for
even
me, what did it for me was in Superman Returns, right? That scene where the plane is coming down and he's slowing it down before it crashes, and he sets it down in the middle of that baseball diamond, right?
hmm
And like you hear the music, the dun 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 dun, dun, that big build up, right?
yeah,
That John Williams original score,
yeah,
and then when he sets the plane down and he goes inside, right? And you hear the nostalgic throwback, and he's like, he goes, "Ma'am, are you okay?" He goes, "Well, I hope this isn't sworn any of you off of flying, because statistically speaking, it is the safest way to travel."
yeah, yeah.
And then and I'm like, and then he comes back out, and he's just kind of floating there in the doorway, and you see the camera zoom in on him. He's on the jumbotron. People are going fucking nuts, and I'm sitting there going, Superman's back. And then you see Lex Luthor, and okay, I have to address the elephant in the room here now, because even though Kevin Spacey has done what he has done and has been basically blackballed from Hollywood, next to Gene Hackman, he was one of my favorite Lex Luthors,
Yeah.
because he could play that role.
The only thing, okay, as Lex Luthor's goes, uh, and this is just my opinion. You'll probably strike me down later on. We'll be off camera, and you'll beep the crap out of me. But in my opinion, though, the two best Lex Luthors wasn't Gene Hackman. He was up there. Kevin Spacey. He was up there. But it was really Mark Rosenbaum that did it really good.
Okay, now you're
Smallville.
talking. Yes, okay. So he did play a good Lex. He made Lex personable, but that's one of those multiverses. So while Smallville did its thing and it was very successful in doing its thing, without even realizing it, it gave Marvel an opportunity to introduce their, their Flashpoint crap, right? Because
DC, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm at DC. Well, anyways, so Smallville, alternate universe, Supergirl, alternate universe, Flash goes to any fucking universe he wants, and he created Flashpoint, and then and it's just like, to me, the whole multiverse thing, it really kind of just maybe and Marvel's gonna start messing with it, and I'm like, oh, to me it makes me cringe, because I'm just like, look. We've got, yes, we can acknowledge that all these multiverses exist, right? And that's great, fine, whatever. But let the stories play out within those multiverses instead of trying to merge everything, because then it just gets watered down. Because for me, at least, I stopped watching The Flash on the CW because it just got too convoluted. They watered it down. Now Barry Allen apparently is running out of Speed Force. And so he can only go out on certain occasions, and I'm like, I mean, it was just the whole.
Well, they have to give it some. I understand, because of the writing point of it and everything. They have to give it some kind of obligation, so they're not like super powered and everything like that. And that's the only thing about series like that, is eventually you're gonna run out of stories. The only show, hands down. There's only two shows that hands down it was only one show that hands down that didn't run out of material and kept it lively, was Supernatural.
Yeah, Supernatural. Yeah, definitely Supernatural. What universe did that exist in?
It was more or less I want to say DC, only because it's a Warner Brothers property, but I almost wanted to say like Stargate, SG-1 did, but
and they're bringing Stargate back. It's called Stargate Revival.
Yeah,
they've already got Amanda Tapping on board. I think they're going to go out and get the guy that played Teal'c.
Yeah,
and they're talking to David Spader to reprise his role as Daniel, and they're really trying to entice Kurt Russell to come back to the table.
That would be interesting. I would love that. Kurt Russell he's one of the greatest actors.
Yeah, in that role, very intense. very intense. And
But-
and it's funny
but
because
the
Kurt
thing is-
Russell coming back to that role, which means he's coming back to some kind of like superhero
It'd be-
universe.
Well, the thing
It's funny because his kid played
Captain
John
America.
Walker.
Yeah, John Walker, US
in-
agent.
Yeah, U.S. agent is playing U.S. agent now, and it's like he goes, I would have never, ever in a million years figured that. And something I learned over and like I was today years old when I figured out. I'm technically 2 weeks old after finding this out. Jack Quaid, who plays Huey in The Boys on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
His dad, Dennis Quaid, his mom, Meg Ryan.
Yeah.
I was like, I did not know that.
Yeah.
And it was on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
That-
Didn't Meg Ryan played in The Boys?
No.
No, who was it? It was the chick from Karate Kid. That's right.
Yeah, Elizabeth Shue.
Yeah.
Yeah, she gone. But, because Homelander melted her face. But
I don't know. Well, no, he destroyed the shapeshifter guy too. So yeah, she's definitely gone.
yeah, dude, that was a creepy ass episode.
Oh man.
Did you watch the outtakes from that? That is just hilarious because he's.
No, I haven't seen the outtakes. I need to watch the outtakes.
Because Tony Starr, because I follow Tony Starr on Instagram also. Good Lord, my freaking okay, that's awesome. Sure, Anyway, so, I got a ton of packages getting delivered to the house. It's embarrassing, but so the episode because I follow Tony Starr on Instagram. I also follow.
That's the guy from
Carl
Homelander,
Urban.
right?
Yeah, he's the one who plays he's a
He was-
Banshee and
yeah.
he plays Homelander. But
God, that third. I think it's like the third or second episode of Banshee, where he messes with the MMA fighter.
yeah.
Just cringe.
But he's like he posts these candids, right? And he's in that teddy. And he's like, well, and I'm just like, it's for me, it's kind of hilarious because, he's like, this is Homelander, and it's just like you get that picture of Homelander. He's like the anti-Superman, but everybody loves him because he's supposed to be the one there protecting you. It's like, no, you are amazing, kind of, and he just has that personality where he can kind of just take that on and just kind of be that ultra super narcissistic, personality. And I just kind of look at it and I'm like, that guy pulls it off. But, when he's standing there on the top of the building, on top of the Void Tower at the end of the second season, or is it third season? Yeah, it's second season. And so he's like, he's jerking off on the top of the building. He's like, I can fucking do anything I want. And he's like, ah. I'm like sitting there going, he is ass to the wind, and that's all you see. And you're like, well, there's that. So,
I have that image in my head. Thank God.
Right.
I can't bleach my eyes.
No, you can't.
But it's stuff like that just nowadays. I mean, they're getting to the point where they're finally letting go with a lot. I mean, the new one, Invincible, the comic book. Cartoon
Invincible.
series.
I know that they deviated a lot from what.
They didn't deviate as much as you think. There's a
Well-
lot of. I mean, press for time and everything like that.
Press for time, press for budget.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I mean,
It was still the same
itself.
story.
The series itself, the first season was absolutely. I loved it.
Oh, guess what's coming out tomorrow? Love, Death, Robot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what I'm watching in the morning.
Yeah. But that's like the Joker movie. They said they wanted to do Killing Joke, and they're like, oh, we're taking stuff from Killing Joke. It's like, you took the fact that he was a comedian, and it's the Joker. That's it.
Yeah. Now,
if you did the Killing Joke, oh my Lord, that would have been awesome. That was a great story.
it was, yeah.
And for the longest time, they did it as a Elseworld comic type deal. That all this stuff, and then they saw how much everybody loved it, and that's when they brought it into canon. Of what I mean, It was very, very well written.
Yeah, and you notice that too. That I mean, they're like little Easter eggs. Like in the original cut of the Justice League, Bruce Wayne is in the Batcave, and he's looking at Robin's costume that he's got behind glass.
Yeah,
It's
Death of the Family, yeah.
Yeah, it's spray painted on the chest as ha 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 ha, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh wow, I picked that up, you know. And it's kind of cool to watch for these Easter eggs. I mean, nobody's ever going to find them all. And I think a lot of times people, like, you see these YouTube videos like, oh, Easter eggs discovered.
That's like trying to dissect Ready Player One with all the Easter eggs that are in it.
Yeah, but those were intentional. But I think that a lot of times when you look at these videos that are out there about quote unquote Easter eggs, I think a lot of them are like, you know, how when people tell you that you can see what you want to see. I think that the people are out there, you know, don't get me wrong, these are very imaginative individuals that are out there creating this content for people to consume. But at the same time, I think that a lot of it is that they're just doing it for the numbers. And whether it's intentional or not, I don't know. Don't necessarily care. But I do know that a lot of these Easter eggs that they are saying, oh, well, if you look at this and it harkens back to this, and they start, you know, I mean, you just you see this wall with like yarn going all over it. But, and I'm like, okay, I see where you got that, but I'm really not. I really don't.
Oh, that's like the guy that does Everything Awesome.
Yeah,
I hate that guy. I mean, with a passion, because he dissects the trailers and everything like that. And I watched, like, it took me one video to totally anytime it because I have a lot of comic book videos that comes up and everything like that. And his always comes up because he does the hashtag comics, and I always like undo, get rid of, only because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Because he's a comic book movie fan, but he's not a comic book fan, and he gets everything wrong.
Yeah, he'll break down.
He'll break something down, and it's just
you know what pisses me off about him? And I follow him too on YouTube. And
I don't.
And the only reason I do, because I'm hoping that one day he'll either actually give away the Infinity Box Gauntlet set, or he'll give away that fucking PS5 he keeps talking about. And I'm like, dude, just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Like,
I still to this moment, I can't even do that. I was like, it's a free PS5 or it's a free Infinity thing. I was like, no, I'm not drinking that purple.
No, see, I left a comment, like the video, like 2 or 3 times, and I'm sitting there going, and you know, when we get to so many likes, we get to so many subscribers. I'm like, And I'm even going to go out on a limb here. You know, he's like, oh, check me out on Spotify, right? Because he apparently thinks that he's some kind of techno musician. And I can't listen to his music. He's got like 2 tracks on Spotify. And I'm just like, he's like, I Am Fires or something like that. I forget what it is. Anyways.
You would have to tell me because I have no idea. I'm the type of person right now, I would take the Harley Quinn bat and just see what his brains look like on the floor. I mean, it's going a little bit off shot on that one, but you know.
I know. I mean, if you're gonna if you're gonna go with fictional bats and fictional weaponry, you might as well just use Lucille. I mean, because at least at that point, 1, we've seen somebody live action swinging it. 2, we know that it does something very substantive to the human skull, i.e., Glenn.
Yeah.
I mean, when he got done with Glenn, he looked like Sloth from the Goonies.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And everybody at home going, "Oh my God, I can't believe they showed that!" Like, don't act like you're being taken aback. I seen what you've cheered for. You know,
yeah.
It's like
really this time.
Yeah, that's where the line is. Yeah, come on now, but
and it's almost as bad as watching Grim Prairie Tales. You actually seen that? You know how many people I know have never seen that movie, and you just have to watch it. It's James Earl Jones is in it, and there's a scene in there that got me to stop having sex with anybody for about 1.5 years because of that scene. I was that afraid. Of course, I was a little kid and everything. Like, well, I was a teenager, but still, it was one of those moments. I mean, wow, just wow. Sometimes you just got to go. They did that. Mm-hmm. They did that.
Yeah, they did that.
But I guess we can stop it from this one. Next one, hopefully next week we get what's the charity organization that we're doing next?
Yeah. So okay. So kind of on a closing note here, I have just become the co-chair for the Executive Action Committee for Rally Point, or for the not Rally Point, rather Rally Project. And we'll put the URL in the comments. Well, actually, I think we might even attach it to the.
I can put it up on.
Yeah, we'll put it on the main page for the
Facebook and everything.
Yeah,
like
main
that.
page for everything. So it's what it is. It's a nonprofit, and we assist veterans, law enforcement, first responders, that are coming off of duty, alpha active duty. They're still on active duty, that kind of thing.
Kind of like Rob O'Neill's, but it's Rob O'Neill's is only special forces.
Yeah, well, I mean, whereas his is just SOF guys. I mean, this is basically for everybody. So,
yeah.
We're going to start. I mean, we're branching out here into our area here in Wichita Falls, Texoma area. So, what we're trying to do is we're gonna look at different projects that we can get behind. There's one that I really, really liked whenever we talked to Doug Pruitt, who is the CEO of Rally Project. He was up here yesterday. I had you FaceTime with him for a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the ideas that he proposed to us was a whiskey for warriors, and it's a fundraising event, right? Where we go to like Wichita here, right? And we pay like $50 a ticket to get in. We do it over the course of like 3 or 4 nights. And it's a whiskey tasting, basically, right?
Yeah.
You get all these like small independent breweries and distillers and stuff like that will submit.
I got a couple of them that I could probably I can talk to.
Yeah, well, so what I want to do is what we'll do is we'll get.
But their whiskey, I mean, it's good, but it's not like it's just.
Well, I mean, we can do things like, okay, so we could talk. We can get different whiskey producers. Whether it be Jack Daniels or get some of these local, state. And I say local.
Well, half the time, all you really have to do is just ask them, "Hey, we're going to do this."
Yeah. Now
we're just going to buy it ourselves and everything like that. And
but
most of the time, they'll actually
at the end of either the one night that we hold it or the 2 nights, 3 nights that we hold it. At the end of each night that we hold this event, we have a raffle for a bottle of a Texas created whiskey.
Okay.
And I mean, we're going to see some of the, and this is all like very up here in the headspace kind of thing as far as the planning stages are concerned. But what we're going to try to do things like get involved with the Hotter in Hell committee, try to set up like a ruck division for the Hotter in Hell 100. I mean, because I mean now that we've got people on rollerblades, we've got the 3, the 5, the 10, the 10K, the 25K, and we've got the 25, 50 mile, 100 milers, right? We've got mountain bikes, a mountain bike division. Why not have a rucking division? So we can get Go Ruck involved, kind of a thing, just to say, hey, there is an alternative to people who don't have bikes but still like to get out and get active.
Yeah, because some of those bikes are like stupid, ridiculous expensive.
Yeah, like $4 or $5 grand for a bike that weighs as much as this glass of tea.
Yeah.
And
how is that? I just noticed that
this
you went
HTO.
to that one.
Oh, dude, this place is amazing. I got the Georgia Sweet Peach tea. Fucking love it, dude.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then like they've got like happy hour. It's like half price drinks from like 4 to 6 or something like that.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check them out after my interview.
Yeah, it's right over there across the street from where Blue Cross is.
Yeah. But another thing on that, and what a lot of people don't understand is the dissociation that you get when you, especially, I mean, this is what went in my military career.
Yeah.
That I was talking to a senior master sergeant of 24 years, and dude was bawling on me because he didn't know what he was going to have to do when he got out. And it's
Yeah.
that kind of disassociation that you get whenever you do something for so long. That I mean, it could be being a cop, being a detective, being a fire department.
Yeah, you lose
And
your.
it's a lot even when you're in a company.
Yeah, you even kind of the best way to describe that is an identity crisis. You lose your identity when you come off of active duty. You lose your identity coming off the
Well, it's
police
just
force.
coming off of anything.
Anything. You identified as being that for
Yeah.
so many years, and especially with like the law enforcement, first responder, military communities, even firefighters. Also, it's like you've trained, you train. You get this muscle memory. You get this mental memory. You
I've known people that as soon as they get out, a friend of mine that my brother-in-law's neighbor. I mean, he was ex fire chief, and then he still does it. He still does volunteer work, especially like 4th of July.
yeah.
With he has his radio on and everything like that. He was showing us his rat racers because he built rat racers on his downtime now, but he was like, yeah, I can't get away from it.
Yeah, and like even okay, so like combat arms individuals, like infantrymen, special forces, rangers, when they get off of active duty, they either go into business or they try to find some menial 9 to 5 task that just kind of keeps them busy.
Yeah, some people can do it, some people
You
can't.
see those people that'll go into the contracting world and they'll go right back over there,
Yeah,
and they're making 6 figures a year.
yeah,
But for the 99% of the time, whenever people come off of active duty, regardless as to what their job title is, or they come off of, they come out of uniform, they have that identity crisis where it's like, okay, now what am I? What am I supposed to do? What we try to do, or what at least in this area, what we're going to try to help establish is kind of a bridge. Now, there's a lot of different things that Rally Project tries to get done, and they've done successfully in other areas of the state. They're called rally homes or rally villages,
hmm
and this is for warriors to come in and we'll hand them the keys not to a permanent residence but to something that will help them get on their feet, and they're not tiny homes. I mean, we can build different models of home and stuff like that, but they're going to be modest, but they're going to be something that they can say, hey, look where I live, I mean, because you can't build a tiny home and just say, okay, this is the footprint for everybody. You get some guy who's disabled. Tiny homes are not ADA compliant. I don't care. That you just can't. You get a guy
yeah,
who's
because you have to lower everything.
Yeah.
You have to lower everything down.
Yeah, and you get a guy who's in a wheelchair. He gets into he can't move around in his wheelchair, and he can't climb up the fucking ladder to get to his damn loft.
Yeah. Well, quick quote pro on that is I would rather give them one of those new wheelchairs is that basically you can stand up.
To an extent,
Yeah.
yeah. But when we're talking about a lot of our stuff is going to be based on fundraising and donation. So
Yeah.
I mean, we've got this program. We're gonna start pitching it in the area for different businesses and stuff and individuals. It's called Special Operations Partners or Spec Ops Partners, and it's a reoccurring donation every month. And we're gonna probably set it at like $100 a month or something like that for businesses. And we'll look at the different numbers and stuff later. But it gets you kind of in as far as getting information first, and it's going to enable you to assume different responsibilities. And once we get that an interview set up with Doug Pruitt, I mean, he'll be able to go into it a little bit more in depth, actually a lot more in depth, because I know that right now I'm just really not doing it any justice. But that is going to be a great interview. And I don't answer numbers that I don't know. Why? Because I don't care about my car's extended warranty right now. It's a 2009. I think I'm a little bit past that.
Yeah.
But with the whole, I know that we're trying to wrap this up, but we'll get him in there. Because we're gonna have our board of advisors because myself and Marissa McCoy, we are going to get that established because she's the co-chair with me. And then after that, we're going to, we can have as many advisors as we want. So we're going to have an advisory board that's going to be a very limited number of people, usually with connections or resources within the community or within the area. And then we're going to have our special advisors where, we can have like 30 or 40 of those to where, it's like, okay, well, if you got an idea, great, we can propose, come in and we'll sit down with the board and we can pitch this idea and then we can flesh it out, see what its viability is as far as fundraising potential, stuff like that, and then we'll try to get that implemented. But special advisors, for the most part, they're going to be, everything's very voluntary. So we'll have our special advisors come in and say, okay, I can volunteer X amount of hours to go here. I can volunteer here, go there. But we're really going to be here in the area trying to further the footprint of Rally Project because it's a project, really, that, we've got that other nonprofit here in town. But with the water, I don't want to say watered down because I don't want to be disparaging, but to me, we're not here to push anybody out. We're not here to, make the public roll their eyes and go, great, here's just another charity. It's like, no, we're actually here trying to accomplish an actual mission.
Yeah.
And it's not to take away from the other nonprofit here in town, but it's like, at the end of the day, the mission is to take care of our own.
Yeah.
And I think that...
And that's just not like military, it's just our own people. The people in our own town.
Yeah, people, like I said...
And if it comes up, it goes up.
We're not specific to the military. It's military, obviously.
Yeah.
Firefighters, police, first responders. We're talking about the paramedics, the EMTs. Because they have PTSD also. They have identity crises just like anybody else.
Yeah, it's more or less the identity crisis that you want to get past because a lot of people only think, and this is due to movies and the media and stuff like that. You'll have people that can do a job, but because of the perceptions they have of, oh, it has to be this, it's probably that, or they're going to have this, we're going to have a problem with that, and they can only get jobs that's pretty much almost the same thing they came out from.
Yeah, and we want to be able to help be that bridge, that transitional bridge to help gap from uniform to civilian clothes.
Because the military will just basically toss you out in your rear.
That's not so much the case anymore. That really used to be the case.
Yeah. Because when I got out...
Now they've got transitional classes, they've got mentorships and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, more to the point, we really don't want people feeling like they are alone or that they have to do this on their own. Because the suicide problem is an actual pandemic. It's not like this 99% survivable virus that's out there. And they're ramming it down our throats as being this this blind, uncaring thing. Not to take away from the people who have lost their lives to it or anything like that, but this is an actual pandemic. It's an issue.
Yeah, it just goes along the lines of what happens when people can't get in touch with other people.
Yeah, so it's about recreating that community and getting that new community in touch with the people that are around them, i.e. the city, the towns, the areas.
Yeah.
And, so right now, again, we're just in the whole, we're getting out here, so to speak. And once we start getting places in, things into motion, like we're even looking at an actual brick and mortar place where we can have a physical location, like with a P.O. box or whatever it is that, we get mail, we can have merchandise and stuff like that. Because any and all, so 100% of the proceeds go back into the mission itself.
Yeah.
And so when I say 100% of the proceeds, after all the bills are paid, everything after the bills are paid, that's what's actually and legally considered proceeds. And so that's what's going back into Rally Project. So,
Okay.
that'll help us to plan and, initiate functions like a gala where we try to dip into the pockets of the higher society in town.
Yeah.
We'll be able to rent out, facilities like Wichita,
Or have like a really good event. I mean,
yeah, because that stuff.
Mike Glover did a really great event, and they had a gourmet chef come in, and everybody just loved the food, and they were like,
Right.
"What? It's in?"
And so we'll be able to get the attention. Once we get out here and we start getting things going, and we really start cementing our presence as being legitimate. Because they're you get those nonprofits, they exist, and then they just kind of take up space.
Yeah.
And they really disenfranchise the public with lack of action. So we really want to be one of those actionable organizations that gets out there, proves that we're doing what we say we're going to do.
Yeah.
And we do it with an intensity that really can't be doubted. So on that note, I really don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that because we are trying to wrap it up, and we've been trying to wrap it up for the last 15 minutes. But,
yeah, we ended up doing that a lot of times. It really sucks. But anyways,
so we'll get Doug Pruitt on here via Skype, or we'll get him in here in person. But either way, it's definitely it's funny because he was like, not to brag, but he knows Evan like personally, and they exchange texts, right?
Oh, Hafer?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was like, oh wow, that's
maybe you can give me a leg up on the interview for the day.
Right, maybe.
Because that's one other person that I really wanted to meet, and I really wanted to meet him on Tory Archery Challenge and everything. But yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like,
hit the bell, comment,
and
once we get everything, don't send us dick pics. No, don't send us dick pics in the messengers.
Yeah, no. Don't do that.
Don't do no. Don't even play, man. Just
no. No. Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No, I will get a fire hose and I will. No, just don't.
All right, people. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.